I think, and certainly the Eagles hope that will be the low point of the season. That was a shocker. I said it. That is a game I didn't see them losing. And not only did they lose it, they got their asses handed to them against a team that on paper had no right to do that.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen, inching closer to a Week 7 matchup. Eagles at Minnesota to take on the Minnesota Vikings. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, brother?
Doing well. Doing better than most people in Eagle Land, I think. A lot of wild takes I've been hearing over the past couple of days. That's the beauty of football, man. Nick Sirianni always says we're the only sport that practices more than we play. So you have this constant over-analyzation of everything because it's not like baseball. You're not playing the next day. You only have a certain amount of time.
Right.
And then you're right back out there. Basketball, a couple days, high. Football, you got all this time, and then you have a mini bye, and it's like, whew, there's some takes out there.
Like what? Hit me with the take, John, that has made you.
Well, most notably is
or something.
There's a small group, very small group, that wants to pull the plug on the quarterback, which is insane. There's a larger group that want to take what happened in New York or North Jersey, to be specific, and translate that to this week. It just doesn't work that way in the NFL. It's so hard to, I think, and certainly the Eagles hope that will be the low point of the season. I mean, that was a shocker. I said it. That is a game I didn't see them losing. And not only did they lose it, they got their asses handed to them against a team that on paper had no right to do that. So, but that's the NFL. It happens every week. And, I'm sure the same thing is going on in Buffalo today against a better team. But,
right.
I'm sure the same thing is going on. And whoever was at Detroit and everybody else who's upset, think about the Baltimore people, Super Bowl contenders who are 1-5. I boil it down because I used to have this discussion with Jody all the time. It couldn't compute to him, and it can't compute to a lot of people. I'm not criticizing Jody. It's like you see it every week, and so many people bet and do these things, whether it's fantasy and DraftKings and blah, blah, blah. So you bet. There's constant upsets. There's constant things that, like, every single week. And that the assumption is that your favorite team's not going to get upset. And the Eagles went through the stretch where they didn't, which was historic. 4 or 5 teams in the history of this league have won 20 of 21 games. Doesn't happen often. So now that you're back in the regular realm of regular NFL football, and hey, you show up one day and you lay an egg, and the presumption that's going to continue in Minnesota, I don't know if they're going to win the game. I think they're going to win the game. They could lose the game. It's a good, not great opponent. But the presumption that they're going to play the way they did against the Giants, like in Minnesota, is just, it's not a good presumption.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say. A perfect example of it, John, is one of the Monday night teams who played. If you remember, the Falcons a couple of weeks ago got beat by the Panthers 30-0.
Yeah.
And they bounced back and beat the Commanders and beat the Bills. So, it is a week-to-week league. There's no doubt. It's good context by you. But how big are the problems? I do believe you're right where, this could be the low point. Do you think it's going to be the low point?
I do, because I can't picture them losing to a team that bad. Like, that's a bad football team. I'm not trying to sugarcoat that.
Yeah, no, I
and
know.
That's a bad football team when they have their playmakers out there.
Right.
And they weren't even out there. I'm by no means trying to sugarcoat. That was an awful performance by the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's why I think it will be a low point. You probably go in there. It's a short week. The human nature takes over. We're going to roll over this team. We always roll over this team. They probably weren't prepared to play. And yeah, I think it will be the low point. Hopefully, it'll be the low point.
Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. John, yesterday the coordinator spoke. What'd you take of it? We'll start with Vic Fangio. He always says some good things. Looks like Adoree Jackson's going to be back in that starting role. Make of that what you will. What were your takeaways from Vic Fangio yesterday, John?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. You could see like Vic seems like he's done with Keely Ringo.
Yeah.
Again, if Quinyon Mitchell's unable to play this week, he might have to play. But I could even see them elevating sort of Mac McWilliams. I asked him about Mac at the end and going a different route completely. Obviously, Adoree's going to be at the other spot. And then you heard the answer about Jalen Hunt, who he likes and thinks has an upside, and that's a positive, but obviously hasn't lived up to the building. He also opened the door about all the edge stuff. He'd been very consistent with JAKIB Campbell. He's not ready yet. He's not ready. But remember, Nakobe Dean is back. And I don't think any of us know where Nakobe is physically. He played 6 special team snaps against the Giants. So unless you were paying attention, you didn't even notice it. But obviously that's a player that Vic loves and respects. And if he is capable of getting back in the lineup, all of a sudden you have to start thinking, is it JAKIB Campbell on the edge or is it Zach Bond on the edge? Which I think might be more likely. And not all the time, but in key situations and sort of piecemeal it like that. At least until Howie can go out and get somebody who's more of a natural edge rusher. So I thought some of that was interesting because he didn't completely shut down JAKIB Campbell. I don't think he got asked specifically about Cooper, which was a little bit of a surprise. And I went back and I said, "Ooh, I should have asked about that because he could potentially move outside." But again, the issues there, he hasn't seemed confident in anybody to play the nickel, and has pretty much assessed that Adoree Jackson or Keely Ringo was better outside than the backup inside. So that doesn't bring a lot of confidence to what he was seeing from the backups inside. So a lot of moving parts, a lot of injuries, but boy, the injury talk, I mean, yeah, it's, you lose Jalen Carter, and I think that's kind of bullshit. MetLife turf, Drew Rosenhaus, to be honest, bullshit. And that's something of the business of the NFL that I think people don't think about.
When you say that, I'm assuming you mean the agents like, yo, don't play today. You don't want to get hurt. You don't want to risk it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think part of it.
I'm not saying it wrong. It makes logical sense to me.
I'm not saying 100%, but a large part of it.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be back in Minnesota. Quinyon Mitchell, we'll see today. Either they misdiagnosed the hamstring or he's not playing.
Right.
Pretty simple as that. But we'll get a better indication of that this afternoon. They don't practice till late in the afternoon, so it'll be nighttime before the injury report comes out. But we'll at least get a better indication of that for tomorrow's show. If you're not paying attention, if you're moved on to other things in your life while we're still in the locker room at dinner time. We'll get a better indication on Quinyon, but that's how I'm framing that. So, but again, and you're the San Francisco 49ers. You already lost Nick Bosa. You lose Fred Warner for the season. I mean, come on. You're really going to complain about injuries?
Right.
Somebody pointed out to me, which I did not know, Dallas in their high-flying offense was down 4 offensive linemen last week. 4 offensive linemen.
Yeah. Dak Prescott's playing amazing. Now, he always plays amazing at this time of the year, but still, he is playing amazing football. There's no doubt.
Yeah. And so there are so many teams that are just destroyed from an injury standpoint and are persevering better than the Philadelphia Eagles. So um, that's something that's a concern and points to the lack of depth, which is a big story this week because Isaiah Rodgers is having a good year with the Vikings, and the Eagles wanted to bring him back, but were unable to do it. And I'm always cautious when I say that because look, the guy made whatever, $8 million, which is a lot.
Yeah, I think it was 15 mil 2-year deal. So yeah, 7.5 somewhere in there.
But if you really want him, you can't go to 9 million.
Right.
Come on. That to me is revisionist history based on how he's playing. And I didn't expect him to play that well. I don't think anybody did, but it's revisionist history to how well he's playing and conversely how poorly things have gone with Keely Ringo, I think.
Yeah. No doubt we're going to see what the solution is or how it all shakes out coming up this week, this Sunday. It's a 1:00 game again in Minnesota. So the Birds on the road here for Minnesota. We'll see how it shakes out. John, Kevin Patullo has a master's degree in the Nick Sirianni School of saying fucking nothing. What did you make of what he had to say yesterday?
Yeah, I see. I'm not going to go down. I think he's much better than Nick.
Do you?
Yeah, much better. But I think you have to be, you have to be willing to listen and not get sort of steeped up because he is open. And Nick is, I think, tries to perceive himself as open, but really isn't. So I think that's a strategy of Nick's. I don't think that's a strategy with Kevin. In fact, but for instance, often you'll hear Nick say, "Hey, I respect your question, I respect your job, but I'm not going to give you that." You're never going to hear that from Kevin. He's going to answer the question. Now you might not like the answer, but I think he's, again, if you want to, and this is not the goal of the job, but for people that complain about him on the podium, yeah, I don't understand that because compared to Shane and Brian and Kellen Moore, he's so much more open. Now that of course is like not the important part of his job. The important part of his job is to get this offense going. And the offense looks like the way it looks, which it looks like the way it looked last year without the running game.
Yeah.
And it looks like, yeah, which to me is the biggest issue. I mean, again, I say it all the time. Now there's some people who want to bench Jalen Hurts. So it seems to be some people are willing to have the conversation now. Most of this has to do with the quarterback. Ironically, I'm the one defending him. People think I hate him. Look, there's and Jeremy Fowler had an interview somewhere explaining again because people shit on him because he does the coaches and executive polls, which rank the quarterbacks. Dude, anybody who had Jalen Hurts top 5 in quarterback, you don't know what you're watching. I've said it a million times. And I said, these decision makers around the league aren't playing the way the Eagles are playing. The Eagles don't want to play the way the Eagles are playing. The Eagles play the way they play to take advantage of the strengths of their quarterback. I don't know if people are willing to have that conversation yet, but they seem to be wavering to be more open-minded.
Well, you say you're defending Jalen on it, and I appreciate that. I mean, I'm definitely not ready to bench Jalen, but is it fair to say if the offensive line and the running game can't get going, even to the tune of what they were in 21, 22, or 23, is this offense just going to be what it's been? Is that what you're telling me, kind of?
Well, it's going to be different at some point again if you start playing the way, and I don't think they're going to play the way they did against the New York Giants. I've made that pretty clearly. But if things start to continue to go in a negative direction, the circumstance of the games will take care of that. You'll have to throw the football more. And it'll be a lot like the Giants game where Hey, you're moving the football. You're down 27-17. It looks like you're going to get right back in the game, and then bang, there's a bad ball. Jalen's description, not mine, but it was a bad ball. And you're going the other way, and the game's over. You're going to have more of that, rather than you're up 27-17 and you're just closing people out with the running game.
Right.
So yeah, it's going to change, but I don't think people want that change. I think they might want that change, but that means you're playing from behind, and those circumstances have changed. So, but a lot of the things that people want to blame on Kevin, and feel free. I mean, he's a big boy; he can handle it. The lateness to the ball not coming out on time, the lateness to the line of scrimmage. You got to start having those difficult conversations.
Yeah, well, the ball certainly not coming out on time, and that's why. I mean, look, I'm not going down the road of where you said people have gone with Tanner McKee and stuff, but if you can't run the ball this year, the very obvious fix, in my opinion, is okay. You got to get Devontae Smith and AJ Brown involved, two of the better receivers in pro football. And if the quarterback is struggling to do that consistently, I think that's where people go to Tanner. I don't think it's about Tanner. I think it's more about the skill set being able to manage the change in the offense.
Well, and if you want to blame the coaching staff, which I think most people do, I think what you should hammer on is that they've beaten into him this risk averse philosophy. So he has sort of been, coached to be careful, to be Super Bowl security conscious, which is fine when you're playing from the lead. It's great.
Not fine
when
when
you're not
doing coverages in the passing game. No.
Yeah. So that's where I would blame the coaching staff if you want to focus on that.
Got it. Good stuff, Johnny Mac. Good opening segment here today. Eagles getting ready to take on the Minnesota Vikings this weekend. Is it going to be Carson Wentz? I kind of saw something yesterday now. JJ was at practice. I thought it was going to be Wentz based on O'Connell.
It's going to be Carson. It's going to be Carson. Yeah.
So it's going to be Carson Wentz versus Jalen Hurts. That's pretty funny. So we'll see that.
Soft benching. They're trying to not destroy the competence of JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
I'm of the belief, and look, I'm being hypocritical here because I often say one of the big problems in the NFL is people lack patience with young quarterbacks, but I've seen nothing from that kid that like usually you see with top 10 picks, usually you see the athlete like Caleb Williams. I see that why people go no. I mean, there's just so much playmaking ability, so much natural skill. He does a lot of dumb shit. But I see what people see. I don't see it at all with JJ McCarthy. I don't see it at all. To the point I've described it. They had Sam Darnold in that building. They had Daniel Jones in that building. And they said, nope, I want JJ McCarthy. Yeah. That will get, and I like Kwesi, know him personally, good dude. That will get him fired. That is just an egregious evaluation.
Do you think it's all on Kwesi, though? I mean, isn't that Kevin O'Connell's the quarterback whisperer?
Well, a little bit.
Hey, I want to go with JJ here.
But let's be honest, the business was more than anything else. Because I don't think if you, and again, I can't prove it, but if you gave Kevin O'Connell the true serum, I think he'd much rather have Sam Darnold. But the business, you drafted the kid where you drafted him. The whole plan is, well, you get a star rookie on a rookie contract. You can build up the rest of the roster, which they did do. It's a big time roster for the most part. Everybody's got holes, but for the most part, and they've had a ton of injuries. So that part of it, they just evaluated the quarterback wrong. They just did.
Yeah, well, we'll see what ends up happening there. Carson Wentz isn't playing too bad there. They've been pretty banged up, and he's still throwing the rock. Now, he's still Carson. He's still got some of his issues.
He's going to give you a chance to sack him.
Yep, and a
chance to be a big sack game. Yeah.
Well, who exactly will be sacked? Certainly not off the edge. We will. I don't.
Well, when you hold the ball as long as Carson does, everybody could get on the party.
Yeah, that's true.
Wait
a sec, John. I think I got to push back on you on that. If I'm looking
Nah,
on,
yeah, I know the next gen stats
yeah,
bullshit.
okay. Because I thought he was top of the league right now.
90% of all, I'm talking about key situation. 3rd and 10, gotta have it.
Right. You're not talking about. I got you.
He's gonna hold on. Now, Connell's gonna script up where the ball's out of his hands immediately, bubble screen adjust. All that affects that bullshit. That's a bullshit stat.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he is number 1 in the league. It's whether it's bullshit or not. He's 1 in the league. 2.5.
Part of the reason why is because they scheme it up that way because they know he's going to hold on to the freaking ball. So yeah, no, I mean, people here know better than anyone. Carson will hold on to the football, and you saw the way they lost to the Dublin game. Who did they play in the Dublin game?
I forget.
Pittsburgh. So they got the ball back, very difficult circumstances. They were down a field goal with like a minute left. They didn't have timeouts. It was like bang, bang, just they got 1 first down and then it was just sack, force. He's holding on to the ball. You got to get the ball downfield. And that's the frustrating part with veteran quarterbacks like that. I'm like, if it's 4th down and you see a 4th and 10, the thing that drives me crazy more than anything is if it's 4th and 10 and the game's on the line, throw the freaking football. Give somebody a chance.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we got Mike Gill in the green room, John. Let's get to Mike Gill real quick, and I'm going to read the super chat, and then we'll bring up Mike. Lockhart says, if what you're saying is true about playing to his strengths, why is there such a huge disparity between 22 and now in 2025?
Saquon Barkley. There was a huge disparity between. Why did you skip over 2024? Well, you skipped over 2024 because they won the Super Bowl. Look at just the raw passing numbers of Jalen Hurts. Look at the passing attempts between 2022 and 2024. Now they had a good running game, very good running game. And that's the point. You got to get back to that, to where you can get Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift-esque running games at this point. You'd say for that. But 2022, he threw it 460 times. And he missed 2 games. And last year he missed 2 games and he threw it where I just lost it. So it was 460, it was 361. So almost 100 passes less.
Yeah.
And if you want to go to 2023, when they had the bad defense and they were forced to pass, he threw it 538 times. And that went down to 361 last year. Now he played the extra 2 games in 2023, but that doesn't explain that disparity. Saquon Barkley does.
Yeah, makes sense.